to another episode. I'm your host, Tamera. Today, we're going to talk about why should you buy a house now? But first, if you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So let's get a conversation going about your title needs. And you can reach out to me on any of my social media platforms, which is also going to be another part of our conversation today. But first, today's guest is Patty Newby. She is the loan designer powered by Thrive Mortgage. She's been on the show before, so this is a welcome back episode for Patty. And she's extremely knowledgeable about our topic today, right? And working with buyers in the market that we have right now. So welcome back to my show, Patty. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Well, this actually started because we have a little networking group lunch, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were talking about some of the topics that we're going to talk about today. And I was like, I just texted you and I was like, just come be on my podcast again because we need to talk about this stuff and more people need to hear about it than our group, right? So I'm going to dive right in and we'll start with the first question, which was the topic of our podcast today. Is it a good time to buy a house right now and why?
Absolutely.
That's a big question.
Yeah. So the answer to that is it's always cheaper to buy a house now. Think about, we were telling clients this a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but now they're spending a lot more money to buy that same house. So the answer is absolutely yes. It's cheaper to buy a house today. There's not as much competition. You can actually sit down in your kitchen or wherever and think about that offer. Yeah. It is cheaper now.
Well, and I think you hit one of the big things. I mean, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was now, it was a frenzy, right? People were, even though interest rates were in the 2 or 3, that's part of what caused the frenzy, right?
Yeah.
And so people were paying 150, 100K, 200K. I heard about $500,000, $250,000 over in Austin.
Nuts.
It was nuts.
I never want to do that again.
I kind of enjoyed the robustness of the market.
Well, I was thinking about our realtors who were
that's true. Yes.
Looking at 300
No. Everybody's hair was on fire for sure. And I had realtors who were like, I can't work with buyers anymore because I can't get them into a house.
They're standing in line.
I know.
You got 15 minutes to look at a house. Make a decision. I want to think about it. No, there's no time to think about it. How far are you going over?
Sign the contract right now.
I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. And so, I think money's more expensive now and we're going to talk about the media, but it's making people misunderstand that it's a good time to buy a house, right?
They are. I think in the absence of enough facts, what are people going to do? They're going to get scared. Mm-hmm. Let's face it, we're at a 23-year high. Interest rates are high. And I believe they're going to stay high for a little while. But part of the media's goal, right, is to get enough attention so that they listen to them. And we talk to clients every hour that frankly are just misinformed. Mm-hmm. So it is our job, I think, as professionals in real estate and lending and our community is to inform the clients of what's real. Hey, rates are high, so you can't get around that. Mm-hmm. But how do we still achieve the payment and your payment goals and all your other financial goals along that, even though rates are short-term high today?
Well, and you hit the nail on the head, short-term high. Because you can always refinance later, right?
Absolutely.
And so the idea now is you buy the house that you get to buy the house that you want. It's going to cost a little bit more in interest rate, but it's not going to cost you more in the sales price, right?
Correct. But we're still right now, some of my clients are in multiple offers today.
Very area specific, but you're not wrong.
I just had a client lose a house for about $1.2 million. They were in multiple offers and we were not introduced to the client soon enough. And then we tried to help save the deal and we couldn't. We ran out of time.
Got it.
But we are seeing those multiple offers. But if you buy your house now, are you going to pay more interest? Absolutely. So I ran some quick numbers at a $500,000 purchase with 10% down with moderate credit score. Okay. And moderate in the DFW and Texas area is around 660, 680. So I'm just generalizing here.
Okay.
If you wait to buy a home until rates drop, imagine what's going to happen. All these folks, maybe your neighbors, maybe you, maybe your clients are sitting on the fence waiting till rates drop. So instead of you paying $500 for a house, are you going to pay $530, $540, $520? Maybe.
Yep.
There's going to be that frenzy again when rates drop down to 6 or 5 or wherever they may drop down to. So you're going to pay more, which means your mortgage is going to be higher. Okay. And then at the same time, you're not going to have those year or 2 years where you're paying your mortgage down, and then you're going to miss the appreciation on your home. Everything I'm seeing in the DFW and Texas market is we're still going to appreciate a little under 4 or a little over 4%. So if you have that desire to buy a home, you could be missing $30,000, $40,000. And yep, on a $500,000 home, you might pay about $8,400 more in interest at a higher interest rate. Just ran some general numbers. But the upside is it's cheaper to buy now.
It's cheaper to buy now, and you can always refinance later. So how many times have we heard date the rate, marry the house, date the rate, or is it date the rate, marry a house? I can't remember.
I don't know,
right?
but the rate's temporary,
point, right?
And even if you look back years, most people don't stay in the same mortgage for 10 years. That's really rare. And if you do, there's programs for that.
Years. Yeah. And look, I don't know that this is going to happen again, but the people that bought in 2021 and early 2022 when it was top of the market, right? If they want to sell their house now, they're trying to sell it for what they bought it for, but they don't realize that prices have dropped some, right? And so they're trying to get the same amount of money, or they're trying to make a profit, which has this huge gap, right? So they can't sell their house for a profit and be able to walk away easily, right?
I think a lot of clients, at least of ours, they're selling the house for what they got it. So, and they're still appreciating. The problem is, I think we got used to having our houses $100,000 over value.
Yeah.
Now their agent is telling them, hey, sell at $480,000. And they're thinking, oh no, my house last year was worth $500,000. Well, it's worth $480,000 today.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they lost money. They may have got it for $450,000 or something like that.
Well, the comps set the standard, right? I'll use my neighborhood, for example. I live in a new construction neighborhood in Salina, but I moved in 2018, right? So some of those people that moved in 18, 19, 20, 21, they're all trying to sell their house, right? And so if you were to sell your house last year, you would have gotten about $50,000 more for it than you would get for it today. Now that was being pumped by this overpayment of houses, right? It wasn't necessarily the market value of the house. It's just what people were paying, for the house.
The problem is if you were going to sell that house for $50,000 over and you were going to downsize, you're in great shape.
Yeah.
But so many people want to take their $300,000 house and buy $500,000. So if you lose $500,000 or $50,000 over here because you waited, what do you think was going to happen when you buy here? Those were the clients typically going 50, 75, 80,000 over. So if you're ready to sell your home for whatever need, I think it's cheaper to do it now. Get a great realtor and chat with them and do the homework. And the same thing on the buy side. It's cheaper to buy a house now versus wait.
Yes, because prices are going to go up. And you can't do anything about the price you paid, but you can do something about the interest rate you're in.
But you know what? This is the same conversation we've been having for the last 4 years, right?
Well, that's true. Yes. It's some version of it, yes.
People kept wanting to wait till prices drop. They did not drop. And there's no indicators that I've seen that home prices overall are going to go down. Then they wanted rates to come down.
I know.
That may or may not, they'll probably come down, but when and how quickly, we don't know that timing.
It's the same conversation I was having with my best friend this weekend because she's not in real estate, but she's had this kitchen that she's wanted to remodel for like 5, 6, 7, however long years it's been. And I said, what is holding you up? Okay. Like you need to remodel this kitchen, sister. Yeah. Okay. What is holding you up? She's like, I'm waiting for prices to come down. And I said,
what prices?
What prices? These aren't the prices.
Right.
Welcome to
life.
Life. These are the prices now. So you have to get your mind wrapped around this is what it is. It's not going back to how that was 5 years ago. Right?
Yeah. Cabinet wood's not cheaper.
Right.
Whatever you're going to do on your kitchen countertops, flooring, it's not cheaper.
It's not cheaper. And guess what? It ain't going to be any cheaper.
No. And what's funny? You talk about renovation is, I don't know how many times clients delay for whatever reason. Then they want to list their house and the realtor says, oh, you have got to update this 20-year kitchen.
Yeah.
They update it and then they list it and they haven't had time to enjoy it.
Right. And we gotta keep chipping away at it.
It's better to buy now. It's cheaper usually to remodel now too.
Well, and there was something else that we were talking about before the show started. Remind me, because it was a really good point about buying a house now. Anyway, we'll move on. We'll come back to it. But one of the fun things that I wanted to talk about, I just wrote it as a side note, and I told you I wasn't necessarily going to follow the entire script. while we're talking about selling your house or buying your house, let's run through some things you should not do when you're buying a house.
Yeah.
Important consumer information. This is consumer
if you're
PSA.
selling a house, don't list your house on your own. Please get an expert.
Well,
first of all.
absolutely.
But people talk to us about that. You want some stranger coming in your house and going through your stuff and may or may not be qualified? Ouch, get a realtor.
Yes.
But when you're buying a house, please follow what I call the 30-second rule. Don't do anything. And if you have questions on it, call us first. Mm-hmm. And on my video, I'm like, I don't care if you have chicken or steak for dinner, but don't get married before you're in the middle of a process. And yes, a few months ago, we had a client that got married 2 days before he closed. He forgot to tell us.
Goodness.
We closed on time. But
good for you. That's a cold start for you.
The wire was already at the title company. We're like, oops, we got to redo some paperwork.
Yeah.
But don't
explain why. Because he's married now. So now
Texas is a community property state. However, if that would have been a VA loan or an FHA loan, that would have been a problem and it would have delayed. We would have had to pull that spouse's credit. We may or may not have had to add them to the loan. There was legal paperwork to sign that may change their interest rate. There's a whole slew of things that may prevented the loan from even closing altogether. So,
and I think we could do a whole podcast just on what could happen if you don't disclose that you're getting married or getting divorced.
Yeah, especially then you're going to have an attorney to deal with too. But don't move money around.
Yeah,
It's a shell game, and we are going to follow the trail. And so if you get a gift or you find money on the ground, please call your favorite lender ahead of time and say, hey, I have this money. What do I do with it? Stop and make that call. Don't move money. Don't max out your credit cards.
Don't buy a car.
Don't take your fabulous spouse on a trip of the lifetime.
Yep.
Because if it drops your rate, that could be a 0.5 point rate drop, and then you're not going to be happy. And I know all lenders want their clients to be thrilled.
Yep. There's some big things. Don't make any big purchases. Don't make any big life choice, decisions.
If it's a big deal and you got to take more than 30 seconds to make a decision,
call your lender.
Call us first. That's the gist of the video.
Okay. So, we've talked about, appreciation a little bit. We talked about dating the rate, right?
Yep.
We talked about how the media creates emotional
drama.
Headline. Yeah, they cause a lot of drama. Okay. And so it is our job to educate the general public on exactly what the housing market looks like right now in DFW. Okay. We've talked about we don't want to wait to buy. Okay. Now there was something interesting that you said in the meeting, that I hadn't thought about, and that's, eroding appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's talk about, and this is, obviously this is, we're talking to our realtors here, right? So we're dropping prices, and that is going to create an erosion in our appraised values. Yep. So let's elaborate on that.
So most of the time when I chat with a realtor, they drop the price. It's because they're not getting any showings. And I'm generalizing here. I'm not the expert as a realtor, but in just chatting with the realtors we work with. And what we're trying to really do is attract more buyers. So what we suggest our clients do is work on a special financing strategy. And buyers and sellers right now have two issues when they're selling. They're not getting enough buyers, but overall rates are higher. So clients either cannot qualify on their mortgage because the rate's high, or they can qualify and they don't want that payment. That payment might be $200 or $400 higher than they're desiring. So what are we as a lending team going to do to help achieve that client's goals? So when we continue to drop the sales price or the list price, the goal is, right, to attract more buyers and get that home sold. But we're eroding our appraised values. And if the rates were not this high, that particular home may list and sell just fine. It's not that home's not worth it. It's just maybe there's too much competition in their neighborhood, or they're not getting buyers. So when we drop the sales price versus drop the payment, which is what we call it,
right?
Then we're eroding that, and that can have a lasting effect, because what's going to happen is we're going to have all these eroded appraisal values. Rates are going to drop. then realtors and sellers don't have to drop the payment, and then we're going to have appraisal issues.
Yeah.
And they're going to look at the lenders and go, what's wrong with you? Why would this house appraise? It appraised 6 months ago. Well, that's because the whole neighborhood dropped the price.
Right. The
So
same thing as
we need to be aware
had
of
in the
this.
previous market where we were upping the price, right? And we were doing it faster than the appraisers could keep up with it.
Right.
By the way, that's not your fault.
I know, but they call us and go, what's wrong with your appraisal?
Yeah, your
granted,
appraiser. I love when they say your appraiser.
Thrive has an amazing appraisal panel team. But remember, appraisers are licensed. They have to go by the comps and recent solds and maybe some supporting comps. But appraisers have a responsibility too that's statewide. And so they just can't make up numbers because we decided to drop the price.
So, okay, that segments into a big topic that I wanted to talk to you about, and that is the buying down the rate. Okay, because that's a very popular lending product right now.
Yep.
And I was talking with one of my escrow officers, and she said, we've got a lot of deals terminating right now, but I can tell you the ones that are making it to closing is the ones where the seller is offering a buy down rate to the buyer, right? Mm-hmm. So let's back up and explain, because yours is the 2-1.
Well, we have multiple.
You have multiple. Yeah. Of course you do, because you're the loan designer.
And I work for a phenomenal company. Shout out to Thrive Mortgage.
Right.
They give us the products and we go.
Well, but I also thought it was really interesting when you told me they take your feedback and help design products based on what you feel are needs, right? Am I saying something I can say? Did I say that right?
That's right.
Did I say that right? You're laughing.
My Thrive executives are going, oh, what is Patty saying there?
Okay, but do we need to edit this?
No, we can keep going because Thrive's amazing. What they do is work to understand the market. And I was in a leadership meeting, and our CEO and executive team had some great ideas. We voted on it. We voted on a name. And as long as it makes sense financially to the company, right?
I mean,
we do roll out and develop products to serve the community at that given time when is needed. Perfect. And our home to home and Thrive Max and Thrive Flex and Thrive 85 are all great examples of that. But I know that's another podcast.
Sure, it is. It is. So let's refocus on the 2-1 buy down.
Let's do general buy downs first.
Yes.
So some clients have a negative reaction to points. And it's just because we as a community, lenders, have not educated the clients on value. Most of the loans that we have today are paying some sort of various points. And I would say to the person with the fallout comment from your team, I would say the ones that are not falling out are the more of the mortgage advisors, maybe more skilled mortgage advisors to explain the financial impact to their clients. Not that the other ones are not skilled. They carry a license, but it's taking the time to explain that. So on a buy down, you can have a little buy down or a lot of buy down. I was walking in here to get prepared for this, and a lender said, questions you should ask your lender. And the number one question that this person put on their social media is, what's the rate? Here's what I say. The rate's not relevant.
Oh, that's what I was going to tap into that we talked about before. Yeah, it's so important.
That's not relevant.
Yeah.
We have to understand what the payment goals are. But if a client calls and says, hey, I want to buy down, I'm like, wait a minute, we have to get your full financial picture. Mm-hmm. Are you carrying a bunch of debt? What's your down payment? How long are you going to live in there? How do you feel? Mm-hmm. I had talked to a client a couple of weeks ago, explained that to him in a very particular way, and he selected a 0.5 point higher in an interest rate because of how he feels. So in a buy down, you can have a buy down a little or a lot. So let's talk about a 30-year fixed. If somebody is nervous about the market and their payment and they can't sleep at night, we normally put them on a 30-year fixed buy down program. And I'm generalizing because we have a lot of questions that go into it. So then it becomes how much. So what can you afford and what do you feel comfortable with? We present options and we look at, do we need to go deep on a buy down or a little buy down? Some clients on a 30-year fixed buy down are paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Some are paying $30,000
to buy down the rate.
I worked with a builder not that long ago. You know, I can't quote rates without quoting APR, but we were under 5 on a 30-year fixed. not that long ago, 23,000 points. But you know what? The client's like, I don't want to ever have to refinance. Another client picked a higher rate. They're like, we're going to move in 3 years.
Yeah.
So why buy that down? So you've got a 30-year fixed buy down, and then you've got a 1-1 buy down. I'll explain that in a minute. A 2-1 buy down and a 3-2-1. So the first number says, hey, I'm going to be fixed and discounted 1 point for 1 year. So let's talk about a 2-1 buy down, because we can go either route of that.
That's the one I hear all the time.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. So the 2-1 buy down. So let's make up a rate of 8%.
Okay.
The first year, the interest rate is 6%.
Okay.
Second year, it's 7%.
Yeah.
And 3 years and beyond, until you refinance, it's 8%.
So it's a temporary buy down. I think that's what's important. Yeah.
And you know what? I will be so bold with a client to say it's a fake payment for 2 years, because I need to have that client understand that this is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes temporary is a word, but I want to make sure they understand it. I'm like, it's just a temporary, right?
Yeah.
So, but you have to use whatever
same
language.
Thing like a balloon payment. It's temporary,
Right.
It's going to change later. Yeah. Whatever the term, whatever term it
So
changes.
it's our responsibility to make sure the client, if rates don't drop, that they're comfortable with that 3 years and beyond.
Okay.
However, what I really love about that client, if the customer is emotionally comfortable with it, is so many clients have debt. The average debt, I think, is over $46,000.
Do you know I heard that on TikTok? I love TikTok. I learn a lot. But
well, I
was like,
I
how
Googled
much
it.
debt?
Well, I'm like, a lot of our clients, this is Dallas. This is Dallas, guys. Here, sorry, Texas.
Are you going to say what I think you're going to say?
We all like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We like our cars. We have our student loans.
Yeah.
But if you can free up $300 or $600 or $800 on your monthly payment, and you're focused enough to pay off that debt, right? During this time, not only are you saving money on your mortgage the first year, but you're freeing up that debt, but you're also saving money on 8%, 4%, or 30% on your credit card bills.
That's right.
So if you present it correctly with a financial strategy in mind, instead of saying, here's the rate and the fees, then the 3-2 or the 2-1 or the 1-1 buy down is a great solution. Now, let's talk about cost to buy downs for both programs. On a 2-1 buy down, on a $500,000 loan, without a calculator here, it's going to cost you $8,000 to $10,000 to have the capacity to lock on a 2-1 buy down. Somebody has to pay the cost of that buy down.
Right.
Because what you're doing is you're deferring the interest. So there's a cost to do that. Someone's going to pay that. But in the market today, it's easy to ask the seller to pay that.
And see, I like this idea of a seller offering this incentive as opposed to lowering the sales price
All day long.
Because I think it helps everyone, right? It doesn't lower the sales price to erode appraised values, like you said, but it gets the buyer into more comfortable interest rate temporarily. Everybody wins.
Well, we've run numbers all the way up to about 700,000. And if the seller has already reduced the sales price, in every situation I've run numbers, it is cheaper for the buyer to bump up the sales price too. So maybe in MLS, you already have that list price set. You've already reduced it $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, bump it up. Bump it up. And instead of offering 500, offered 520. Because even though the buyer is carrying more debt, if they only put 10% down, right?
Yeah.
The interest that they're going to save over a couple of years in a buy down program is going to serve them better financially to bump it up.
Well, let me be clear. So you're saying Mr. Buyer should go to Mr. Seller and say, I will give you $520 if you'll do a 2-1 buy down.
Oh, yeah. And
is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But they don't say 2-1 buy down. So in paragraph 12 of the contract, they would put $20,000 of seller's concessions.
Oh, okay. And then the buyer takes those concessions and applies them to the program.
Here's the confusing part. Program. You can do a buy down on a 30-year. You can do a buy down on a 1-1, 2-1, or 3-1, right? Because there's that cost associated.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could do a combination, which that really gets confusing. So you might have a 2-1 buy down where your start rate is 6%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because 6, 7, 8.
Mm-hmm.
But the buyer's like, oh, can you shave another $200 off the rate or $50 off the rate? Sure. So we can do a 2-1 buy down and then a permanent buy down on top of that. So we're just going into our rate
That
sheets,
makes sense. Yeah, that
if you
makes
would,
sense.
and buying it down a little more. So that's why it's so important to do a financial strategy with our clients. We call our Smart Home Savings Plan, and we're really looking at that customer for overall debts. You know, we just helped a client restructure the loan or design the loan. We saved them $1,200 a month cash flow. And they wanted to be able to put food on the table and take vacations. And when we were done, I said, now you've got $400 left over. I want you to start saving for retirement. I know you're only in your 30s, but you need to start saving for your retirement, and I'm going to follow up with you in 90 days.
You know what? This is a great golden nugget, okay? And this is something the audience really needs to hear, okay? Not just, I mean, this isn't for realtors. This is everybody that's going to buy a house. It is super important that you use a local lender like Patty Newby, because if you call 1-800, give me some money, okay? All they're going to focus on is the rate. That is it. They're going to tell you what the rate is, and they're going to lock you into something, and you're going to be done. You're going to sign paperwork, and you're going to be done. Okay. What Patty does is super important. This is what you get when you work with somebody who is responsible for themselves, themselves and their well-being, and responsible for team, and responsible for their, and that actually cares about working with buyers for the long term. Is they look at your entire financial portfolio and your big picture, and they help you find the right situation, the lending situation for you. That is, I cannot tell you how important that is. Look, if you are super experienced in this, okay, you've bought like 20 houses or whatever, maybe you don't need, the breakdown. I mean, well, Patty's saying yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. So, but to have someone take an analysis, to take a big picture look, I mean, I've even been in this world for a long time, and to have someone take a big picture, a 50,000 foot view of the impact. I mean, let's just use one of my rental houses. I do a cash out refi right now. I bought the house in 21. What impact does that have on me and my entire portfolio? Right. And so that's important, because even though I'm in the business, I mean, you could see something I don't see.
Well, and you don't do it every day.
That is correct. I don't do it every day.
That'd be like saying, I've bought 20 houses. I don't need a real estate agent. Yeah, I do, because that's not my area of expertise. Our clients that have bought many, many houses, they're like, thank you. Why doesn't other lenders do what you do? And, I just did a video on this myself, but clients need to demand more from the realtors. I'll tell you a bad story. We lost one the other day. I'm like, what? So we were half a point cheaper on the rate. And the client got upset because our house payment was $250 more than the other lender had quoted. Now I'm scratching my head going, the rate is a half a point cheaper. How can we be higher? Well, the lender, all they did is they sent him a rate sheet. They skipped the MUD. They skipped the HOA. They didn't even tell them, right? They didn't even have it anywhere. So they skipped the closing
Depending on the neighborhood, that could be a big amount.
And they undercut the property taxes like $180 or whatever it was. But you know what? Clients don't know. They had talked to this lender before they spoke to us. Right? And they were first-time home buyers. But I think consumers need to demand more. And they are, because they're Googling information, which leads us to social media and facts. But if I was a consumer, don't just accept a rate sheet. To me, it's like getting a car receipt, right? Or you're buying a new car and you don't even go out to test drive it. They've told you nothing about how it rides or repairs or anything like that. So make your loan officer do the due diligence and show you how to save money and get a little outside the box. And if they're not doing that, for heaven's sakes, call us.
Well, sure. I mean, that, I got a little passionate there for a second, but I think that, that is such a big help to people in that are trying to buy a house, right? They don't know what they don't know. And they're not in this industry, so they don't have these conversations like this all of the time. And they see an advertisement on TV or YouTube. I don't know about TV anymore. YouTube or Facebook. Something's following you around on Facebook, and it's call me 1-800 give me money. And they're like, we're doing a 4% interest rate. Well, what are you going to do as a buyer that has never bought a house before, that doesn't know?
Well, where's the fine print? You have to be a 780 credit score and put 10% down.
Yeah.
And maybe you're a first-time home buyer, or you know what? Maybe life happened and you're a 680 credit score.
Right. So I think it's super important to work with a knowledgeable lender that actually cares about the people that they help get into houses, right?
Yeah.
And then wants to build those relationships by providing a high level service like yourself. So thank you for being a part of today for sure. Okay. We're going to have to we could talk about social media all day long. You and I could. So that might have to be another podcast. But before we wrap up, let's leave our realtor audience with some value about social media education when it comes to buying and selling a house.
I put a thing together earlier this year called Better Together. And I think what we have to do as industry experts, whether you're in title, real estate, or lending, is just educate our community. And when I say that, I'm talking about like the DFW area, whatever we consider our community, because I was talking to a really great realtor the other day, and this person spends a lot of time educating their consumer. Well, the problem is they have a buyer. And now the house that they want to buy is not available because that client, who somebody else is working with, the realtor, has not educated them to go ahead and list now. So I think the more we get facts out there that it's a great time to buy and why, and run the numbers and get clients to explore options, A, we'll have more homes to buy, and B, we'll have more buyers to buy those homes. And what we do is we help each other, right? Because it may not be my buyer or my seller, but maybe I have a client that is getting ready to list and was afraid. And now we have talked to them about why it's a good time to list and how we help with lowball offers, bump it up. And then they have that confidence along with their good realtor to go ahead and put a sign in the yard.
I mean, I talk to realtors all the time about being relevant and how do you grow your business through social media and things like that. I mean, and look, it's consistency. You've got to do it more than once a month.
Yeah.
And it's got to be, a mix of content, right? And you've got to have a track record, right? Just like anything, just like going to farm a neighborhood. You can't go put out, do a door knocking campaign one afternoon and call and be like, okay, now give me a listing, right? So just like anything else, it is consistency and it takes time to build, right? But some things you could do right now. Tell me. I don't know. I'm throwing you at the wolves right now, Patty, but I know it's because you can do it. Give me 5 topics off the top of your head that you think a realtor should do a 30-second video on right now based on what we're experiencing. And if you need some help, I'll help you. But you don't.
Okay, so don't worry about a low ball offer. Okay. And this is not the proper words. Rates stink right now, but we can get your home sold. Rates stink right now, but we can probably hit the payment you desire. And something about we don't want 30% year over year appreciation when your home sells in an hour.
Right.
Let's everybody chill out for a bit. It's okay if your house sits on the market for 30 days, because when you go to buy a home, you don't want to have to buy a home in a split second either.
Right.
And I think we have to do something is sellers want 50,000 more, but when they want to go buy, they want 50,000 less.
That's right.
So wait a minute, where's the disconnect there? Right. So I don't know. Those were off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a lot more. And I talk to realtors and even other lenders that say, oh, I'm not ready. I haven't done it. Well, if you look at my videos, I have different hair color, my phone's ringing.
I've seen you sitting on your back porch steps and, doing one with a cup of coffee.
I think all you just have to do is be genuine. You don't have to be fancy. I'm not fancy. Sometimes my hair's all crazy. I had COVID hair for a while, during that period. But I think the people that know, love, and trust you just have to know that you're speaking from the heart.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Give me a call. It's free to talk. So let's chat.
I think that's great. I mean, look, I try to, the first thing you hear, right, when you talk about video is, I hate how I sound, I hate how I look, I don't know what to say. Okay,
so I write notes what to say.
Look, I have notes too,
and I do it high level because you cannot write everything down. It has to come from the heart and from the soul. And I don't spend any time editing my videos. You probably could see that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need to do that because then it makes them perfect. And that's not
No,
who
I
we
have all
are.
kinds of videos that aren't done in a studio like this. And Jordan can tell us how many episodes I've done so far of this particular podcast. I think we're creeping up on 60 something,
wow.
60 so episodes. But when I first started, it didn't run as smoothly as it does now. Right. I learned things along the way that I wanted to implement to make it better. And so that's the thing is just, Nike's logo is saying is the best. Just do it.
Just do it. Even though my hair's in my face right now. Or
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You.
Just be you. Your people already know you, like you, and trust you and love you just the way that you are.
You too.
Okay. Well, Patty, thank you so much. You're always a wealth of information. I think,
Thanks for having me.
One little, I know we're going to wrap up, but one golden nugget, the thing that you have said one thing to me, I mean, you've said a lot of things, but this one had the most impact on me is the fact that I can opt out my cell phone numbers from junk calls on your website.
Okay, you can all go to my website. There's no charge, no obligation. Go to the little right where the hamburgers are.
Yeah.
Click down and opt out. Save yourself about 100 spam calls. I talked to other people that have spoken to other lenders. They're like, why didn't they tell me that?
They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that.
Go to theloandesigner.com and you can opt out there. It's free.
Well, the one thing that people have to understand that I did not understand is when you apply for a loan, your phone number, like lenders buy lists of credit of people who have applied for credit.
We've tried taking the phone number out, that we've tried taking the email out. They're called trigger leads. There is legislation, to my understanding, that is trying to prevent that, but it's not getting signed. Imagine that. But, when you go from $4.4 trillion in mortgage industry to 1.416, whatever.
It's a very big,
it's
very
going to
different.
be a little chaotic. So opt out, avoid those spam calls.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, you will get a lot.
What do you think's going to happen when rates drop? Oof.
Okay. Anyway, opt out. Okay.
That's opt out.
And use Patty.
Yeah.
So thank you again so much. I value our relationship so much. So thank you. I appreciate you. And thank you so much for joining us on another episode. Again, I'm your host, Tamera Gady. If you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So let's get a conversation going about your title needs and make it a great day.